Both of us are foreign nationals, aged 29, and have been married for 6 years. I am the proprietor of a business, while my spouse is a dedicated teacher. We both hail from affluent families, but our parents have been reluctant to address the challenges they have faced in their own marriages. We have a 2-year-old son. We both work long hours, 7 days a week, and share the responsibility of managing the household. I am primarily responsible for cooking, cleaning, and laundry, a division of labor that we have agreed upon. We both share the responsibility of caring for our son, but she has been experiencing difficulty connecting with him. She attempts to connect with him in a motherly way, as if there is a missing bond between them. This may be because she works too much, but I have always been supportive of her career, which she is passionate about. In February, we received the exciting news that we were pregnant. We were absolutely thrilled. We have always wanted to have 2 children, with a 2-year age gap. A year separates them in age, and to make matters even more intriguing, she is expecting a girl. We will now fast forward to the end of March 2023. A colleague of my wife, who is also a good friend of ours, shared a rather implausible rumor with us. According to this rumor, a high school girl claimed that my wife's baby belonged to the girl's father. We found the notion so implausible that we simply dismissed it. Interestingly, the father and his wife, who were involved in this rumor, are actually close friends of ours. He is a member of the school board, and they are of a similar age to my parents and grew up together in a very small town. It is worth noting this. My wife and he had frequent conversations and text exchanges, mostly regarding his daughter's projects that my wife supervised. This is quite common in her line of work, especially since she deals with animals. A week later, my wife and I went out for dinner with the dad and his wife. The joke about the rumor came up again, but this time I sensed something strange. I didn't laugh it off like I normally would, and the conversation quickly shifted to something else. It didn't consume my thoughts, but it lingered in the back of my mind throughout the rest of the evening. Later that night, around 2 a.m. For the first time, I decided to examine my wife's mobile phone. I was shocked to discover text messages and evidence of an emotional affair between her and another man. The messages included expressions of love and intimate discussions about her potential departure from the relationship. There were also explicit images that she had sent to him. These messages and images dated back 6 months. Despite my intense emotions, I managed to remain calm and took screenshots as evidence, which I then sent to myself via text message. When my wife woke up, I confronted her about what I had found. She immediately started crying. She then proceeded to apologize, stating that our child was undoubtedly mine. She went on to claim that they had only shared physical intimacy once after she became pregnant. This assertion was, of course, implausible, given that the man in question, who is 57 years of age and of below-average physical attractiveness, is also overweight. Despite this, he has a seemingly ideal family. This information caused me considerable disquiet. She then asserted that he had initiated contact with her and that she had never desired any physical intimacy. This was, of course, implausible, given that they had grown distant and she felt that my work was more important to me than she was. I could say the same about myself, perhaps even more so. I had taken on the role of the homemaker. In order to be at home more with our son and to take care of the household during those 6 months when she was cheating, I made sacrifices with my work and time. I took her on 3 trips abroad. I was honest with her and expressed the need for us to spend more time together. However, she would often spend unreasonably long hours away from home. Let us now consider the present situation. My parents are aware of the situation and believe that we should try to work things out for the sake of our children. We live in a small town where it is common to hide anything negative or imperfect. This is simply how it is in the conservative atmosphere of the Bible Belt. The religious atmosphere of the Bible Belt requires that we maintain a positive public image and portray our family as an exemplary unit. Despite this, she has been striving to repair our relationship. She has taken significant steps, including quitting her job and severing ties with the other individual. She has not made excuses or placed the blame solely on me. She genuinely desires to salvage our marriage and is distressed at the prospect of my departure. She asserts that her primary objective was to gain my attention throughout this ordeal. The situation can be summarized as follows: she has been able to maintain her role as my reliable partner and problem solver. By maintaining the facade of a perfect marriage and family to the outside world, Rock ensures that her family and friends remain unaware of the true extent of her affair. This allows her to retain the excitement of her secret relationship, which she alone knows about. However, she does not display motherly behavior towards our son. Our sexual relationship is also unsatisfactory. She has a high desire and always makes an effort, but she is unenthusiastic about it. It is only in the bedroom on certain nights and there is never anything new or exciting. She is not loyal to our relationship. Whatever money she made, she spent on clothes, while I took care of the bills and savings. I have worked hard to establish a successful business, but currently, I have lost my motivation and enthusiasm for my work. The stress of both my work and her behavior has become overwhelming, and I have no one to whom I can turn for support. I find myself contemplating a divorce. I have considered selling my business, liquidating my assets and properties, and even starting a new life a considerable distance away. I have even considered joining the Air Force. The Air Force, however, I am aware that this drastic decision is not necessarily the solution either. I have therefore sought the advice of a lawyer, a friend of mine who recommended that I tell him the whole messy story. He listened and then suggested that I should get a divorce. He informed me that if your name is on the birth certificate, you are on the hook for child support. Even if the child is not biologically yours, and the same is true if you are married when the baby is born. Those words stuck with me. I walked into the house and she was there, sitting on the couch. I handed her the papers and told her I wanted a divorce. She looked at the papers, her eyes wide and scared, her lips shaking. She fell to her knees, crying like crazy, but her pain was music to my ears. During the proceedings, I observed her distress and informed her that I would not raise a child that was not biologically mine. I was represented by a highly competent lawyer who guided me through the legal process. I retained ownership of the marital home and, with the evidence I had, I was not required to pay alimony. The court granted me full custody of our son. She was devastated, suddenly becoming a single mother with a child who was unwanted by others. The man with whom she had an affair subsequently withdrew from the situation, citing his own family commitments. He and the woman in question were, it would seem, simply seeking a casual relationship, and, when the reality of the situation became apparent, he terminated the relationship. The divorce proceedings were concluded, and the woman in question was no longer a significant factor in the woman's life. She was able to focus on her son and her business, attempting to resume a normal life. There was a certain degree of satisfaction derived from this. By observing her response to the consequences of her actions, I have been able to rebuild my life from the ground up. My business is once again thriving, and I have rediscovered my passion. My son and I are closer than ever, and I am grateful for the life we have built together. Despite her initial belief that she was merely dealing with the consequences of her choices in raising a child on her own, I have learned that she has been struggling with other issues as well. My wife's friends informed me that she was experiencing difficulties in adjusting to her new role as a single mother. In addition to the challenges of parenting, she was also struggling financially, struggling to pay her health insurance. I was initially disconcerted by this information, but I was able to maintain a positive outlook. It appeared that she was receiving what she had previously brought upon herself. Those experiencing similar circumstances should be encouraged to persevere, to remain resilient, and to trust in the process. It is important to seek assistance when necessary, but to resist being overpowered by others. I had to learn this lesson the hard way, but I am now happier and more content than I have ever been. It is important to remember that we all deserve to be happy. If a relationship brings out the worst in you, it is advisable to leave and start anew. Second story. I am a 21-year-old male and I grew up in what I believe to be a happy and loving family. There were no indications of distress or unhappiness. However, in August 2020 my father, aged 54, discovered that my mother, aged 50, was having an affair with her high school boyfriend. He then proceeded to initiate divorce proceedings on the 18th of August while driving my younger sister to her first year of college. My parents informed her of the divorce at home a few hours later. The news was received with considerable shock and surprise. 2 days later, I departed for my second year of college. The experience was profoundly traumatic, as I had only a few days to process the situation before leaving the family home I had lived in for 17 years. It is unlikely that I will return. By the end of September, the house had been sold, and it seems unlikely that I will ever return. Since August 19, 2020, there has been no communication between my sister and my mother. My father relocated to the same town where I attend college, and I subsequently took up residence with him. Some may view this as an unconventional arrangement, but my father and I have always enjoyed a strong bond, and this decision was mutually beneficial. I am grateful for this outcome. In the current era, the circumstances have unfolded in a manner that I had not anticipated. My father has made an impressive recovery and seems to be content with his life. Our relationship has strengthened, and I am confident that it will continue to do so. We engage in activities such as skiing and biking together on a regular basis. On the other hand, I am confronted with significant challenges in I have been attempting to repair my relationship with my mother. Initially, I attempted to contact her, but our conversations were largely focused on the affair. I would end up expressing my frustration and asking her challenging questions about her role in the dissolution of our family. However, my mother is generally reserved, and my mother is characterized by a reserved and victimized demeanor, which has caused significant distress to me. When I have attempted to initiate a resolution or engage in an honest dialogue with her, she has consistently dismissed these attempts by stating that the matter is already settled. I raise this point to illustrate the nature of her response. Despite the traumatic nature of the situation, we were initially shocked and caught off guard. I still make regular calls to my mother, usually once or twice a week. We engage in casual conversations, avoiding the discussion of the painful events we went through during this period. I was also receiving therapy at my school, which helped me gain a better understanding of myself. I discovered that I'm on the autism spectrum through therapy, and I also learned mindfulness techniques that helped me let go of the need to constantly seek answers for why my mother did what she did. Surprisingly, these insights actually improved my relationship with her in some ways, at the very least my own mental well-being. I discovered that I am on the autism spectrum through therapy. I also learned mindfulness techniques that helped me let go of the need to constantly seek answers for why my mother did what she did. Surprisingly, these insights actually improved my relationship with her in some ways. At the very least, my own mental well-being improved. My ability to cope with the trauma and my ASD improved significantly. I ceased therapy in June 2021, and in May 2021, my mother informed me that she had decided to relinquish my 2 childhood dogs to an unknown family. This was a significant setback to my already strained relationship with my mother. Technically, I could have taken the dogs with me to Colorado, where I currently reside, but it would have been unethical to do so. This would have a significant impact on the lifestyle that I have been working hard to build. I still strongly believe that, since my mother was the one who disrupted the dogs' home in the first place, she should be responsible for taking care of them. She would never admit this, but the real reason she gave them away was that she had moved to a fancy apartment in a posh part of the city and did not want to relocate to a place with a backyard, even though she could afford it. The environment was highly stressful for the dogs, as they require a great deal of attention and have been accustomed to having direct access to a backyard throughout their entire lives. Last summer, I visited them at their new home, and it was profoundly distressing for me, despite my happiness at seeing them. It was heartbreaking to witness them being displaced from where I believe they truly belong. I am sharing this now because, although my relationship with my mother has slightly improved over the past year and a half, I still feel that I have not fully dealt with the trauma I experienced. A year and a half has elapsed, yet I still feel as though I have not fully processed the trauma I experienced. It appears that my mother is content with avoiding the difficult conversations that are necessary for our relationship to heal. Whenever I attempt to discuss uncomfortable truths or ask her challenging questions, she consistently presents herself as a victim of an unfair situation. Additionally, she attempts to manipulate my perception of what transpired by downplaying her own responsibility and dismissing the legitimacy of. Despite my continued affection for my mother and desire to repair our relationship, she seems unable to grasp the necessity of addressing the emotional impact of her actions. She has effectively destroyed the very things I value most, including my childhood pets, and further eroded the possibility of trust and respect. I experience a profound sense of grief for the loss of my family, my mother, our dogs, our home, my former life, and numerous other aspects of my identity. I frequently have nightmares in which I am betrayed by those I love. I find myself dwelling on the reasons behind her actions, exhausting myself and attempting to comprehend this situation because I struggle to accept that she is a morally reprehensible individual. I will be frank and admit that I have engaged in actions I am not proud of. I often find myself grappling with feelings of hatred towards women, which can be attributed to a fear of due to the family trauma and my Asperger's. I believe that I will be unable to form a healthy romantic relationship or start a family of my own. Despite undergoing therapy and maintaining consistent communication with my mother, I still feel that I have not fully recovered from these experiences. The level of openness and trust that I require from my mother seems unattainable. I frequently question the value of maintaining a relationship with her. What are your thoughts on this matter? It seems reasonable to conclude that I am justified in feeling angry and conflicted. If you were in my position, would you have ever considered giving your mother another chance? How would you go about establishing a new, healthy relationship with your parent? I genuinely love her and am motivated to find a way to be close again, but I am uncertain if that is realistic. I would appreciate any feedback or insights you might have. Music. My wife and I have been married for almost a decade. We are both in our mid. In the 1930s, she made the decision to pursue a master's degree by returning to college. We both agreed it was a beneficial decision, as our married life was fulfilling and we were both content. It was the most fulfilling period of my life. However, as her studies progressed, her life became increasingly busy, with the demands of coursework taking up much of her time. After a few months, I noticed a shift in her behavior. She would often stay out later than usual, studying at the university library or meeting up with classmates for group projects. On occasion, she would have to return to the office late at night because she had forgotten something. These instances led me to suspect that she was engaging in unprofessional conduct. However, I had no concrete evidence to support my suspicions. She consistently provided reasonable explanations for her actions. I even attempted to identify any inconsistencies in her behavior, but none were apparent. On a Saturday morning, while checking my emails on our shared computer, which she sometimes used for her homework, I noticed that she had forgotten to log out of her account. This led me to conclude that she was being unprofessional. On one occasion, the subject returned to the office late at night, ostensibly to retrieve something she had forgotten. This behavior aroused my suspicions, yet I was unable to provide concrete evidence to substantiate my concerns. The subject consistently provided reasonable explanations for her actions, and I even attempted to identify any inconsistencies. However, I was unable to do so. My suspicions persisted, and I began to believe that I was being overly suspicious. One Saturday morning, while checking my emails on our shared computer, which the subject sometimes used for her homework, I noticed that she had forgotten to log out of her account from the previous night before logging her out. I observed that I received a number of emails from an individual with whom I was previously unfamiliar. My curiosity was piqued, and I decided to investigate further by accessing her Facebook and Instagram accounts. I sought to ascertain whether she was acquainted with this individual. Upon examination of her social media profiles, I discovered no evidence of his presence. At this point, I resorted to conducting a Google search of his name. This led me to discover that he was her college professor. He was a middle-aged man, married with 3 teenage children. His family life appeared to be stable and unproblematic. I did not consider this information to be particularly noteworthy. The emails that had been exchanged between them appeared to be innocuous. I recalled my own college days, when I frequently corresponded with professors. Following the incident, I conducted further inquiries via email and was reassured that there was no cause for concern. I therefore dismissed my previous concerns. As time passed, I became increasingly convinced that my initial worries were unfounded. Life became more manageable, my wife settled into her studies, and the stress and busyness decreased. We had more quality time together and even started constructing our own house. Life seemed to be smoothly sailing without any major issues. However, I was unaware that a nightmare was about to unfold. On a Thursday, I decided to surprise my wife by coming home early. I wanted to take her out for dinner at a new restaurant while driving down our street. As we passed each other, I noticed a car leaving our driveway. I immediately recognized the driver as her former college professor. He was wearing only a towel and appeared shocked and struggled to find his words. When I asked him why he had just left our house, he became even more distressed. While driving down our street, I observed a vehicle leaving our driveway. Upon passing it, I recognized the driver as her former college professor. I was filled with curiosity and concern. I hastily entered our house and found my wife in the kitchen, wearing only a towel. She appeared shocked and struggled to find her words. When I inquired about the professor's recent departure and her attire, she attempted to brush it off. She claimed that I was overreacting and that nothing had happened. I therefore headed straight to our bedroom. While she attempted to intervene and stop me, I entered the room. It was painfully obvious what had transpired. I was determined to get the truth. I made it clear that if she did not come clean, I would reach out to his wife and inform her about everything. Finally, she could no longer hold it back and broke down, confessing everything. They had been involved in an on-and-off affair for 3 years. According to her, it all started after she finished his class. The woman in question claims that she was brainwashed by the man in question and that she never truly desired the relationship. She emphasizes his position of authority even though he was no longer her professor and insists that she was manipulated into a physical involvement that lasted for 3 years. It has been a whole week since I found out about everything. The very next morning, while my wife was at her parents' place, I moved my belongings out and got in touch with a divorce lawyer. It is as though I am going through the motions, feeling completely detached from reality. My wife has not. I have ceased all forms of communication with her, including text messages, phone calls, and emails. She has been persistently requesting forgiveness and another chance. Even her family has been attempting to contact me in an attempt to persuade me to reconsider. However, today I finally took the step to block her and her family on all communication channels. Fortunately, I have an excellent support system comprising people who have been extremely helpful. Next week I plan on scheduling an appointment with a therapist to begin the healing process. I am aware that it will take time to recover, and I am aware that I deserve better.